38 years ago, two Hollywood megastars set up shop in the capital region when Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep spent weeks in Albany and Hudson making the film adaptation of William Kennedy's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel Ironweed. It was the third book in his Albany cycle. The film was directed by South American filmmaker Hector Babenco, who had previously been nominated for an Academy Award for directing Kiss of the Spider Woman. Now, making Ironweed here meant that scores of local people from the capital region had the thrill of playing extras on the movie sets. Both Nicholson and Streep would receive Oscar nominations for their work on Ironweed, although the film really did not do that well at the box office, and the reviews were mixed. As a member of our news team in 1986, I can attest that getting to cover the film production going on here during that time was a highly sought-after assignment. And here are some of the news pieces that ran on our air during and after the filming, featuring the reporting of Lance Wheeler, Ken Screven, Dan DiNicola, Bill Duffy, and Judy Sanders. Hope you enjoy this look back.
Ironweed crews are in the city painting, taping anything that looks synthetic, sprucing up house fronts, getting ready for filming later this month. There are a number of locations scheduled for filming. The State Grill on 7th Street will be the site of one exterior scene. The former Marsh's department store is undergoing extensive interior work. Our cameras were not permitted inside. The county courthouse, too, will be included. Hudson Police Chief James Dolan won a minor part in a scene being shot at the Golden Sons junkyard. Hudson Mayor Mike Esco Jr. will be an extra. On South 5th Street, Ellen and Mike Jablansky were paid a couple of $100s for the use of their home. Mrs. Jablansky said that the Ironweed crews liked the look of her neighborhood.
For the old part of it, the houses, you know, they're the old houses. I think that's mostly what they were looking for.
But you are pretty excited.
Oh, yeah. I'm great. I don't even go out the door. I just stay and watch them all day.
Lance Wheeler, News Center 6, Hudson.
Hudsonians got their first taste of Ironweed early this morning. A one-block area on Columbia Street was the setting of a junkyard scene. About 3 or 4 inches of dirt on the 300 block gave it the appearance of the 1930s. Antique cars were trucked in at 6 a.m. The star of Ironweed, Jack Nicholson, spent the morning confined to one of 6 trailers. He appeared in one scene inside the former gold junkyard and a brief scene on top of a horse-drawn wagon. County employees at the courthouse were asked to park 2 blocks away. A leased bus shuttled them to work. One woman broke her ankle getting off the bus. It's been a long time since movie crews have visited Hudson. It was in 1959 when Harry Belafonte and Robert Ryan starred in Odds Against Tomorrow. Some played hooky from work or skipped school trying to get a glimpse of Nicholson. Most weren't successful. Hudson Police Chief James Dolan, who was selected as an extra in the Columbia Street scene, said today's filming was rather monotonous.
It's like boot camp. Everything is hurry up and wait. We're very meticulous on when things get done and how it gets done.
Lance Wheeler, News Center 6, Hudson.
I know. A lot of you thought old Jack Nicholson had left Albany and Ironweed forever. He had gone back to L.A. where he could mock the Celtics. Well, that's not quite true. The truth is, in about a half hour, old Jack Nicholson is flying into Albany Airport, and tomorrow morning, early, very early, he's going to be filming a scene right here.
Workmen are already covering the trolley tracks on Lark Street from shooting earlier this week, but the period feel is still there, and this Nicholson scene will be in a bus. But why? Why is he returning to Albany?
The story goes something like this. The Ironweed producers owed Jack Nicholson about 10 grand a day in penalty fees. But Jack said, look, let me go to L.A., let me see my favorite team win, and I'll come back and I'll work for free, no penalty. Mr. Nicholson is going to be a pretty busy guy tomorrow because right after Lark Street, he's going to come to Tenbrook and Livingston, where he has to redo a scene with a ragman. He's going to be coming right down here where this truck is parked.
And it better go well because the producers have given the word tomorrow is the last day. After tomorrow, no one gets paid. And after tomorrow, Mr. Jack Nicholson will part from Albany until the premiere in November.
By the way, I almost forgot. In a couple hours, Nicholson, Meryl Streep, a lot of the cast, workers, they're all going to be congregating here at the Turf Inn in Colony for a wrap party. And on Sunday, old Jack Nicholson is going to travel down to Boston praying that the Celtics are going to lose one more. I'm Dan DiNicola, News Center 6.
These are exclusive glimpses of Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep in character as Frances Phelan and Helen as they filmed scenes from Ironweed in Hudson this past week. Cameras began rolling in January in Albany, Cohoes, Troy, and Hudson as movie people tried to recreate the city of Albany circa 1938 and earlier. Today, the makers of the movie brought some of their experiences to an eager public at a SUNY Albany auditorium. Pulitzer Prize-winning author William Kennedy was joined by an Ironweed producer, director, a publicist, the costume designer, and the set designer in partially lifting the curtain from the closed production. A shrewd PR move.
Production on the movie began in January, but we've waited this long to tell the story mainly because we wanted to make sure there was a movie.
Filming is almost over now, but the audience learned today that the producers didn't really want to film the movie here.
The thought of trying to move Ironweed to Charleston or Louisville or Philadelphia didn't bode well. So Marcia came to me and she said, let's bite the bullet, let's go to Albany. And so...
We also got a closer look at the stars' costume sketches and actual costumes. Ironically, the designer grew up in Amsterdam. We already had a look inside the book's Gilded Cage nightclub, in reality, the old Boulevard cafeteria in Albany. Kennedy says filming is going well, only a few days behind schedule because of the weather.
Surprises are in the performances of Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep. We all know how good they are, but what they're really doing is extraordinary.
Well, the making of the movie continues, and one of Ironweed's biggest scenes will be shot here along Albany's Lark Street in early June. Trolley cars from the early 20th century and hundreds of extras will be brought here. Already people are saying that Ironweed will become one of the best American movies made in at least 30 years. Ken Scriven, News Center 6, Albany.
An article in Sports Illustrated, tongue-in-cheek, mentioned Jack Nicholson heading to the NBA playoffs from the Ironweed set in Yuck, Albany, as the article put it. Oh, yeah, you think they're going to premiere Ironweed in L.A.? Los Angeles got a tulip queen or a building shaped like an egg?
I'd rather be in Albany.
Ben Franklin once stood at the spot at State and Broadway in downtown Albany. You think Ben Franklin ever stood in Los Angeles? Sure, L.A.'s got architecture, I think. For instance, this building's got more columns than any building in America. Wait, I've tricked you. Okay. Think this is Los Angeles? Albany.
We got everything here.
What do we got here that L.A. hasn't got?
Clean air.
L.A. got a building like this with a ship on it that doubles as a weather vane? Balderdash. All right, let's be fair. Let's head to Los Angeles to find out what they think of when they hear Albany.
Albany, yeah. The first thing I say is what, and then I get my memory back, and then I think of the governor's there, right? Any over there? Albany, New York? Is that the capital?
Any New York? Snow.
No, lots of it.
Yeah, lots of it.
Big place.
Big place. Lots of people.
Lots of people. Style, clothes.
Albany's cool. Nice little city. Friendly part of New York, I'd imagine. Albany.
When someone comes up to you on the street and says Albany, New York, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Why are they asking such silly questions?
Jack Alisi is packing up his wardrobe and going home. Home is nearby Amsterdam, but the wardrobe is not his. It's costumes for the 2,000 extras, 100 principals, and for stars Meryl Streep and Jack Nicholson in the film Ironweed, set on the streets of Albany in 1938. These are his sketches for Streep, who wanted to look withdrawn and in hiding under a cloche and worn coat.
So we used a hat, a cloche-style hat that was pulled down. None of her hair shows, and her eyes are just peeking out from the brim of the hat.
One of the only other costumes she wears in the film is a kimono she dies in. As for Jack, taking out one shoulder pad set the tone for his character.
We decided one was a little too big, so we took it out, and just by taking it out, Jack said, wait a second, and noticed that he really liked the way the lopsided look. So that, again, we left it that way. So all his coats were made with one shoulder pad up and one down.
Joe started out to be a doctor years ago and ended up doctoring costumes for stage and screen instead. The Michael J. Fox hit The Secret of My Success is among his credits. The secret to Joe's success is his ability to make people into something they're not, like me. And this is the dress I wore as an extra in the Gilded Cage scene. This goes to prove that the clothes make the woman. Joe picked out this dress, and I'm transformed into a swell from 1938.
It looks terrific, and we'll just change the jewelry around a little, and we'll be in business.
Joe's operated out of this Latham warehouse for 7 months now. He might just sew up an Oscar for his efforts.
The main part is enjoying the work, I think, and if the awards happen, that's all for the better.
He's certainly a man with a gift of garb. Judy Sanders, News Center 6, Latham. This is a rummage sale, Hollywood style. But if your goal is to find an Ironweed prop brushed by the stars, you're in the doghouse. Mostly, it's just leftover junk.
A lot of things here were used on the sets, but actually touched by the stars is another thing.
How about a hot water heater? It took not 1 but 3 hot water tanks to keep Jack Nicholson warm in a bathtub scene. The tanks are for sale. So is this empty bottle of Cap'n Jack whiskey, but Jack never drank from it. What you really want to know is what Jack Nicholson touched, right? Well, this is it. This cup was handed to him by his wife in the movie in a flashback scene on an old freight car. Nothing here, not one thing, was used by Meryl Streep, but these bowls were at the table she sat at during the mission scene. There's a graveyard scene, and here's a prop department gravestone. Richard Young died old at the age of 75. 1938 was a year when magazines sold for a dime. But what looks old might not be. Food cans of the 1930s are actually Blue Boy wax beans. Lots of stuff wasn't used, like this old radio, and you'll never see Nurse Higginbottom. But you might just see this woman, a swell from the Gilded Cage. With top billing? All right, I admit it, it's me. I was an extra right there with Jack and Meryl. My fellow extra had the poster made up for fun. What I walked away with were not just the memories, but the Gilded Cage itself, and it was free. Judy Sanders, News Center 6, Colony.
Bill Milstein showed up at 7:30 this morning to buy 4 $125 tickets to Ironweed, but already 1,600 were gone.
Okay, that's 14 tickets at $125. That's $1,750 due in 48 hours.
A lot of tickets are being ordered by phone.
It's going to be a full house by the end of the week, we're sure of it.
Let's face it, the last time some of these people went to a movie was to the Sound of Music. That doesn't matter. The Ironweed ticket is the hottest one in town.
On December 17th, the world is coming to Albany. Stars, tuxes, gowns, a premiere that people want to tell their friends and future grandchildren about, and money seems to be no object.
$750. It's a total of $500. $625.
If I told you 500 years ago you're going to pay $500 for movie tickets, what would you have told me?
I'd probably think you were crazy.
Author William Kennedy's daughter, Dana Rafferty.
We're eagerly awaiting the response of the public and the critics, and we're sure, we just feel so good about the whole thing.
Of course, everyone in line is wondering just who's coming to the premiere, and wouldn't it be nice if they were walking in right between Jack and Meryl? And what we've learned is that Jack Nicholson has ordered a limousine for the premiere in Albany.
The movie's not all you get for your loot. After the show, a gala reception at the Hilton up the street.
It's going to be crazy in here. 3,000 people, 3,000 pounds of food, open bars everywhere, hors d'oeuvres all over the place.
Executive Chef Grant Page will supervise a kitchen staff of 65. Shelley Gould is in charge of over 200 caterers. A world premiere, food, drink, 3 bands for dancing into the night. The Ironweed premiere may be Albany's biggest night ever. From Albany, Dan DiNicola, News Center 6.
I was going to wear a nice black one and be conservative and display some elegance. But tonight I'm going to be a star, so I got to be just a little bit different.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Nebraska Brace is no stranger to the spotlight. He's an outspoken city councilman. But tonight, he's playing star, basking in the light of his performance as Andy, King of the Hobos, a role he says fits him like his satin tux.
And I saw a lot of derelicts and panhandlers and bums and prostitutes and people that were using the con games, boosters and Mac men. I saw it all. It was a part of my life. I used to have to step over guys like Andy, the character that I'm playing, to go to school in the mornings.
Nebraska spent the day welcoming friends and relatives from as far away as North Carolina. They wouldn't miss his gritty debut on the silver screen. What do you think of him playing a hobo in the movies?
What do you think about it? Your honest opinion.
It's hard to imagine.
His role brought him fame beyond the streets of his performance. The entertainment press from as far away as Puerto Rico and Seattle wanted his story. His small part has generated big excitement.
I won't kid you. I think it's nice to be recognized when you walk down the street or when you go to the supermarket. People start whispering, and invariably you hear your name, Nebraska Brace. It's a good feeling. I like it.
Tomorrow night, this place is going to be a menagerie of tuxes, gowns, and probably a few top hats.
Ironweed is coming in for a one-night stand. It's a world premiere, but where are the stars?
I'm not gonna hit you.
Nicholson is off skiing in Aspen. Streep is in Australia. The director has taken off to Brazil. Co-star Tom Waits is unavailable, attending Carol Baker and the kid who played Jack Nicholson as a kid.
A high-ranking source from the producers told me that he tried to get a premiere train filled with celebrities up from New York. But once the celebrities learned they'd have to spend the night in Albany, they all backed out.
They spent almost a half year filming in Albany. Doesn't Albany deserve more than a few token appearances by co-stars?
We're very close.
And why is Ironweed playing only one night in Albany, the one place where good, solid business is a virtual guarantee?
The people at TriStar Pictures said they don't think it's a story. I told them my viewers would want to know. They said they don't care if you want to know.
If a movie about Depression Albany is going to be a hit, it has to be met with overwhelming enthusiasm by critics. The initial reaction is at best mixed. Newsweek's review was favorable, Time's review was a pan.
I told some other critics you'd want an advance word on their reactions, and they obliged.
Steve Schiff of Vanity Fair thinks Ironweed is bad and amazingly bland. New York critic David Denby says it's an utter failure with no possibility for commercial success. Julie Solomon of the Wall Street Journal thinks it's just 2 hours of monologues which do not fit together. Mike Clark of the USA Today says he admires it, but it was too restrained. And David Edelstein of the Village Voice says it's a mess on all counts.
If you're going to the premiere tomorrow night, I hope you have a good time, and no matter what anyone says, I hope you enjoy the movie. But so far, the movie is not being greeted with the enthusiasm everyone involved hoped it would get. From Albany, Dan DiNicola, News Center 6.
As spotlights crisscross Albany's skyline, the slow murmur of limousine engines belching out a cloud of exhaust is heard outside the Palace Theater. A long line of sleek limos remain perched outside the palace, a sight not often seen in the Capital District. Mounted police slowly trot through the congested crowd of limos that pose slight nighttime traffic delays.
I think it's a real work of art.
So you're really pleased?
Oh, very much so, very much. From the point of view of a writer, I couldn't ask for anything more. I mean, they translated the book very, very faithfully and with great sensitivity. And
those without tickets wait patiently for the movie's finale, hoping to catch glimpses of some of the stars. But Nicholson and Streep are no-shows, an attendance record that doesn't sit well with fans.
It's a slap in the face that they didn't show up in Albany, where this was filmed.
And for some, the next best thing to a picture of the stars is a picture of their picture.
It's a little slow.
Some Ironweed moviegoers left the picture early, complaining it's not all the movie was cracked up to be.
It's slow.
Oh, it's very slow. What's the mood like inside?
Everybody's sleeping.
For Linda and Richard Salisbury, leaving early posed some unusual problems. Where's the chauffeur?
Limo driver out for coffee. There's the story, guys.
Beautiful looking movie.
We were there when it began.
I know it's going to be a terrific movie because he's going to direct it.
Author William Kennedy announcing that Kiss of the Spider-Woman director Hector Babenco is the perfect director for Ironweed.
Maybe we can do it.
At the time, Kennedy speculates on possible leads.
There's Gene Hackman, Jack Nicholson, Robert De Niro.
Indeed, De Niro was offered the lead and he refused. Finally, producers came to terms with Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep, fresh from heartburn.
You could just stand over in front of the desk.
January of this year, New York auditions for young Jack Nicholson with Miami Vice casting director Bonnie Timmerman.
There are a lot of them that to me don't look like Jack Nicholson.
They don't look like Jack Nicholson. That's why they're not going to get the part.
Meanwhile, in Albany, thousands line up for parts as extras, everyone dreaming he or she will get a line. Albany alderman Nebraska Brace does get a scene in 4 or 5 lines. The day before shooting, we get a peek at the warehouse where all the interiors will be shot. We're asked to leave the gilded cage where Streep and Nicholson will have one of the movie's most engaging scenes. Nicholson is great with crowds, but he refuses to give any interviews.
You ever been to Albany before?
Then we're given a tour of the Gilded Cage interior where in the movie, Nicholson watches Streep and Streep plants a big kiss on the lips of an extra played by author William Kennedy.
Quiet, please.
The shooting continues in Troy, Albany, Hudson, Glenville, Watervliet. On June 6th, D-Day, Nicholson spends his last day in Albany, and after 5 months of editing, Ironweed arrives.
Imagine that.
But I know when I'm getting skinned. This hand's seen it all.
I'm not a drunk and I'm not a whore, and I never let a man use me for money.
I ain't half bad once you get to know me.
Ironweed arrives in the place of its birth, Albany, New York.